Hello there and welcome to In Focus. Since 2001, Jos, the capital city of Plateau State in north-central Nigeria, has been the scene of one violent crisis or the other, resulting in hundreds of people getting killed. Hundreds have been maimed and several thousands have been displaced, resulting in near humanitarian situations. Jos has become a killing field where religion, ethnicity and politics are excuses to kill innocent Nigerians. Please stay with us. Jos was founded at the beginning of the 20th century. It became an important center of tin mining during British colonial rule. Jos became a cosmopolitan city with many Nigerian ethnic groups and Europeans who found the city hospitable, especially its cool climate and peaceful nature. With an altitude of over 4,000 feet above sea level, the city enjoys a near-temperate climate than most parts of Nigeria. Jos became a melting pot of race, ethnicity, and religion. But the tourist peaceful image of Jos has been shattered by violence triggered by religious bigotry, political manipulations, and ethnic chauvinism. First of all, let's examine a record of events that made Jos a killing field. In September 2001, violence triggered by a minor incident in Jos spread to other parts of Plateau State. The crisis resulted in the death of close to 1,000 people. Hundreds were maimed and thousands of people were displaced as homes, masjids, and churches were burnt. Bishop Benjamin Kwashi is the Anglican Bishop of Jos and a key stakeholder in the Jos peace process.
There was a time the Babylonian Empire was about to crumble. God did something. The Assyrian Empire also crumbled. God did something. The Persian Empire rose and came down. God did something. One kingdom after another, as long as God created us, He has a place for everybody in history. That is my hope. I have seen God do many things. Once upon a time, there was a British Empire. So who knows? Maybe all of this thing is happening so that we can rise one day and you will hear of a Jos Empire. And you will look at a brother and sister, shoulder to shoulder. Nobody's talking about what religion, what tribe, or what language, but people who love the Lord, and those who go to their mosque, go to the mosque, and those who go to the church, go to the church. And they will be compelled to practice the tenets of their religion, which our parents practiced. We inherited it. Don't forget that.
In 2004, several hundreds of people lost their lives in intercommunal clashes in the town of Yelwa, a town in southern Plateau State. In November 2008, following a controversial local elections, about 400 people were murdered. Properties worth millions of dollars were destroyed. Ustaz Abubakar Aliyu Khalid is an official of the Jama'atul Nasr al-Islam.
When you look at the two warring parties or groups come from two religions, as if there is a demarcation from, or the dividing line has been predicated on religion. Therefore, whichever angle you look at it, you come to the religious angle, that a Muslim cannot be this or a Christian cannot be that. No, it is impossible. It cannot be. It is a Christian state. No, we can't accept this from the point of view of religion.
In January 2010, about 300 people were killed when violence erupted in Duseuku under very controversial circumstances. At the Jos Central Masjid, about 187 dead bodies were brought for funeral prayers and subsequent burial. Human Rights Watch and an international media said about 150 dead bodies of Hausa Fulani Muslims were stuffed in wells in Kuruk Arama, an old tin mining settlement near Jos. The Jos crisis was beginning to take on a more horrifying dimension.
This is a build-up over time. You must remember that 2001, some lives was lost. Then the reprisals, a little later, a few months later, some lives was lost. And then Langtang South, some lives was lost. And each time government arrests people, they release them. And the legal requirement for the sanctity of life, anywhere in the world, this does not happen. Only here. So over time, it does not take too long before criminals take charge of the situation.
In March 2010, in Dogona Hawa, a village about 5 kilometers outside Jos, scores of Birom men, women and children were murdered by Fulani herdsmen. Fulani herdsmen have been blamed for several attacks on Birom villages in Jos South, Riom and Barikin Ladi local government areas. Saleh Bayeri is an official of the Fulani ethnic cultural group Miyetti Allah.
As far back as 2001, when there was an outbreak of crisis in Congo, Russia, in Jos, the Fulani in Barikin Ladi, Riom, Jos South, did not even know where Jos was, most of them. And there were some of this Birom militia that was already in place without the Fulanis knowing. So before you could say Jack Robinson, they went into a rampage, killing women and children, and within 72 hours, we lost 200 women and children, among other people of the Fulani stock. By the 17th of January 2010, when there was another crisis in Congo, Russia, here in Nasarawa, before within 74 hours again, in Barikin Ladi, Riom, and Jos South, we lost 219 Fulani, including women and children, including babies, 2 days old, 1 week old, 6 years old, and so on and so forth. The aged, both women and children, So now it is natural that when there is this kind of act of injustice, some people may be bound to forgive and forget. You understand? But there are some people who will find it very difficult to bear such loss and take it in their strides and forge ahead.
It is strange why neighbors have decided to take up arms against each other. Neighbors who have coexisted side by side and have shared economic and other social ties for decades. Yiljab Abraham is the Plateau State Commissioner for Information.
If you give it all to religion, if you put your finger and say religion is responsible for it, you wouldn't get it all. If you see its ethnicity, you wouldn't get it all. And if you see its politics, you wouldn't get it all. But you pick up a little bit of this element of religion, element of politics, and element of ethnicity. You see, where people feel unsafe, unsure, all sorts of things will come in. But what we have looked at, actually, what has come out very clearly is more of the struggle for political space. But really, there are people who are benefiting from just fanning the embers of disunity, fanning the embers of hatred, rather than working towards unity, towards consolidating the peace.
The causes of the Jos crisis are simple and very clear. However, the solutions are complicated but not impossible to implement. For example, one of the major causes of the crisis is the issue of who is an indigent and who is a settler. The Hausas, who have been here for many years, insist they are indigents. A few of the other tribes of the plateau say the Hausas are settlers and can never be considered as indigents. Ladi Pasali is a politician and says the Hausa Muslim in Jos is an indigent, and anyone who holds a contrary opinion is doing so out of ignorance.
In all the European records, the white men wrote their books by CJMS that before the coming of the white men, the Hausa has been living in Jos. And that precisely, we have historical records. It is a kind of trade slave route since 16th to 15th century, transatlantic slave trade and trans-Saharan slave trade. It is a route of transatlantic and trans-Saharan slave trade. You know, at that time, the white men are not even thinking of coming into Africa to colonize. They're only interested in buying slaves. So it's a kind of slave-based. So it's something that has a history of over 1,000 years. Hausas have been living there. So I don't know how somebody will just wake up overnight and say some people are settlers.
3 tribes in Jos, Birom, Anaguta, and Afizere, consider themselves indigenous to Jos. Aminu Zang is an Anaguta politician.
There are certain claims to traditional stewolships. Such claim that my brother and friend, Ladi Pasali, mentioned in the crossfire, so-called crossfire interview that we had, that as far as it's concerned, they have had Sarkis and Sarkis and Sarkis over time. And that the Bongom Jos stewolship was even a later development. I am saying, like before 1914, we had lived, we have survived as separate independent entities. There was this amalgamation of Nigeria, and now we have now come together, right? And I am surprised, like when somebody was saying that Hausa Fulani had been here for 1,000 years. I hope he knows what 1,000 years is. 1,000 years? It's difficult to be true. So I think that is general view that they have had various Sarakuna at various times, I concede, but that they had something that had a semblance of authority over the generality of the population of our place is not correct. Yeah.
If you are talking of settler migration and other things, even the Biroms, there is a historical by the late Bangom Dr. Fombot. He granted an interview in Community Concord from Kebbi, why some people say CJMS say they came from Niger. So if you are talking of migration, that's a different thing. And you cannot even count the day a Hausa man migrated and came to Jos. Nobody will give you that history.
Hausa Muslims say they have various forms of discrimination and denial of access to infrastructure and opportunities over the years. Sani Mudi is a politician.
There is isolation, total neglect and isolation. And any community that is isolated and completely neglected by government is obviously a threatened community. It's obviously a community under threat. And that is how far we live today. There is a total absence of government from the lives of Muslims here in terms of provision of social amenities and whatever it takes to live decent life, meaningful life, and recognition and inclusion in governance. In all aspects of this, the Muslims are neglected.
There is something that Governor Jan has done. He has asked all local government councils to construct 6 kilometers of roads. Each of them should. He has allowed them unhindered access to their money coming from the Federation account. This is good. So every local government is supposed to develop its place with what it's getting. The state government would continue to spread out its projects. But within areas that feel a sense of marginalization, my honest take on it is that don't sit back and cry marginalization. Talk, keep talking, but don't sit back and keep crying that you're marginalized.
The Jos main market was an international center of commerce with traders coming from as far away as Niger Republic. Today, it stands in ruins following a mysterious fire in 2002 that razed the structure. To date, no investigation has been able to find out what caused the fire. It has not been rebuilt either. Whether ethnicity, politics, or religion, crises in Jos have caused death and destruction in addition to destroying good neighborliness and lasting friendship.
Recalling those days in which we lived as one community, going to the same schools, playgrounds, and sharing virtually everything that belongs to the community together as one indivisible members or one indivisible family. It was quite a pleasant experience. And unfortunately, today, the same is not the case. Our children go to segregated schools, and they no longer have the opportunity of knowing one another. Of course, maybe from the foundation level, of course, as students or as youngsters, getting to know each other, knowing the family system, values, and what have you, across the different cultural divides, which of course will help in shaping one to make him a better, citizen for tomorrow in a multicultural setting as we have. All these are lost. These opportunities no longer exist today.
A large segment of the Muslims in Jos believe very strongly that the crisis is purely religious and that they are targeted for extermination.
How is Islam being threatened? I told you from this angle that Muslims are now being denied access to their worship places. I don't think in the whole world this happens. And it is becoming a phenomenon in Nigeria, in Plateau State. Secondly, the Muslims, especially in Jos North, don't have the honor to bury the dead, the problem of the burial ground. It reached a situation, even in Bukur, for some time, they had to take corpses to Jos. And we had to go and negotiate around Narkota. Even there, were being resisted to a point they wanted to push us out. The problem is even the dog and the pig seem now to have some dignity much more than the Muslims. I wonder, in the whole world, a place where to bury the dead.
The Muslims want to exist and practice their religion without persecution. During the 2011 Eid al-Fitr prayers, Muslims were surrounded by irate Christian youths. About 12 Muslims were killed, several others were injured. About 100 of their cars were burnt.
This group of Jibuis, Jamaat Izalatul Bid'ah wa Iqamatus Sunnah, had a land performing this routine for over 30 years. Now for them to go and do this prayer and took whatever measures of informing the constituted authority, the security and the government, and now for them to be turned to roasted flesh, slaughtered, maimed, and so on. Therefore, Islam is really threatened. It's really threatened in a country where it accepts the freedom of religious worship.
That unfortunate incident was the highest point of criminality over human lives. Whether it was Salah Day or not and people decided to go and congregate is no reason to start a crisis. At all. To say the least, to even kill. It's the same thing I told you when the bombs went off during Christmas. What is the point? To create sadness when some other people want to celebrate the joy of their seasons. So, but because the law in this country has not valued life and has not prosecuted those who take life. So anybody can decide on criminality in the guise of any religion. And now there is no longer any clear-cut line of which religion against which.
The governor of Plateau State, Jonah Jang, has been accused of alleged complicity in some of the crises and for failure to provide security in spite of advanced intelligence reports. Many people have blamed the heightened frequency and intensity of the Jos crisis on failure of security.
The Human Rights Watch has indicted him. WikiLeaks have stated it clearly. Ambassador of America was interviewed. And he stated it clearly that what is happening in Plateau is an ethnic cleansing by the state. In fact, the Fulani that are neighbors to Jan were killed, their houses were taken over. They are just neighbors. The governor's house. He cannot even provide security to his own neighbors because they are houses of Fulani. So the whole problem of Plateau is centered on Jan. And if care is not taken, Jan will be the architect of division of this country.
People are looking at it from a distance and using information that others have already given to them. And from those who are hurt, they can say all sorts of things. It's understandable. But the man is not the cause of the crisis, because we have had the situation 1994, then 2001. And you recall, it went through until the last government gave way. And even in the Jang administration, it wasn't 2007, it was 2008. And that came after an election. So the person is being misread, being misunderstood. Jang is not an angel. He accepts that. But Jang is not the devil. He's not the cause of Plateau's problems.
While filming this documentary, a community leader, Ahmad Ali Kazaure, and one other person died following a raid on their community by the military, who have been drafted to maintain peace in the area. The raid by the military followed the murder of a soldier on patrol close to the neighborhood. Neither the government nor the military has issued a statement regarding the incident. Many judicial commissions of inquiry have been set up in the past, but most of the reports have either not been implemented or have been partially implemented. This has created a culture of impunity.
Life lost does not honor God nor any religion anywhere on earth. Life must be kept valuable. If it is war, it's a declared war. You know you're fighting a war. But here we are, myself and my other Muslim colleagues, we have worked very hard. We have talked with people. We have talked to government to provide jobs for people, to provide security for people, to provide what is necessary for just ordinary means of livelihood. Once that is absent, even the peace we have now is an enforced peace. And that is what we told them. We still say it. Provide other things that makes life meaningful in Nigeria for young people and for everybody, regardless of religion, regardless of tribe, regardless of race. Even the land matters at that point can be resolved.
Justice should be for all. It should be for all. This is how justice is supposed to be. But when I look at justice from the point of view, from a myopic, parochial point of view, that it is only my tribesmen, my religious people, this is where justice comes, then there will be a problem. And I tell you, once there's no justice, there can be no peace. Even in a family.
The federal government of Nigeria recently turned over the security of Plateau State to the military in the hope of putting a stop to the incessant loss of lives and destruction of property. It is the hope of many Nigerians that peace must be restored in Jos to avoid an escalation of the violence that may affect other parts of Nigeria.